All right, UFC Fight Night Mexico, Moreno, Erceg in the main event this weekend for the UFC at Arena CDMX on ESPN2. We've got 13 fights on this card this weekend, and obviously we're going to predict every single one of them. Last week sucked, let's just be honest. Hey, the only good thing about that was Molly can't buy a win, you know? Hey, you can't spell meatball without back-to-back L's, that's all I'm saying. Anyways, enjoy retirement, Molly McCann. Yeah, I kid you not, guys. I think she's going to go to Power Slap. Like, that would not surprise me at all. Don't be surprised if you see a Molly McCann versus Paige Van Zandt super fight at 125 in Power Slap. It would not surprise me in the slightest. But 13 fights this weekend for the UFC. And folks, before we get into the predictions, make sure to hit that subscribe button down below for some more weekly UFC predictions here on the channel. I believe the PFL's next week. That has absolutely zero hype around it right now. It is. Wow, main event, Jason Jackson versus Andrei Koreshkov. Yeah, so we're doing PFL next week, and also, if you want to see me review this UFC Mexico card, either on late Saturday night or early Sunday morning, let me know. I am considering doing that as well here in the channel. Just let me know in the comment section down below if you want to see that. And again, PFL next Monday. Obviously, our UFC Fight Night, Murphy versus Emmett predictions will be a week from today as well. Okay, and before we get into the predictions, make sure to go check out our other video we posted on Greedo Plays MMA. The UFC has signed Kyoji Horiguchi. I talked about this in full for 15 minutes. Make sure to go check that out, link in the description down below, and also make sure to go subscribe to Greedo Plays too, daily NBA, college basketball, best bets, and whatnot over there. Subscribe to that channel, subscribe to this channel, as now we get on to the first of our 13 predictions today, and we start off with our first fight of the night. It is in the lightweight division, Austin Hubbard taking on Markel Mederos. This might, bite me in the ass later. But I do feel like a lot of these fights are really predictable in this card. I don't know. There's a couple later on in the night, like the co-main event between Torres and Drew Dober. That's going to be a really tight one. Other than that, and like Edgar Chairez and CJ Vergara is kind of close for me. Some of these other fights, I think they're kind of easy to predict. This one, I see Markel Mederos winning this one pretty easily. I don't understand why he's just a -190 favorite. Now, don't get me wrong. Again, he's a favorite to win this fight. But I think Mederos does beat Austin Hubbard. I kind of feel like Austin Hubbard's on his way out the UFC. I know what you're going to say. Oh, he fought really competitively against Alexander Hernandez. Alexander Hernandez is not going to blow anybody away in 2025. Yeah, he beat Kurt Holloway in his last fight. Did he really win that one, though? Hubbard's lost 3 of 4. In the UFC. In his return, he's, 1-2, with the only one being a decision victory over Figlak. But I don't really think Austin Hubbard does anything all that impressively, if we're just being honest. His ground game isn't very good, and Markel Mederos isn't going to take him down, so can Austin Hubbard really outstrike Mederos? I'd be surprised if he does. Markel Mederos, 9-1 professionally, 1-0 in the UFC with a unanimous decision victory over Landon Quinones. If you don't remember that fight, yet neither did I before making this prediction video. I kind of just forgot about it. Mederos outstrikes Landon Quinones in the fight. He attempts a couple takedowns, doesn't really land anything, but does have control throughout the fight. They don't score him an official takedown, obviously, but Mederos does do enough. He out-controls Quinones, and he does outstrike him in the fight as well. Not the most impressive victory, I'm not gonna lie. But where does Austin Hubbard really beat Mederos? Do you think he can outstrike him? I doubt it. I know, again, Mederos was one fight in the UFC against Landon Quinones, wasn't the most impressive. Since then, he has been booked against both Nazim Sadikov and Evan Elder, and now, obviously, we got to this bout with Austin Hubbard. But his win in the Contender Series was really good. It was a win over Isakov. It's a first-round knockout victory. Knee right up the middle gets him. And then a win on Fury prior to that. Now, the Fury victory, wasn't really... the 8-8 guy he beat to get a shot in the Contender, but Mederos does have power, and I think he's an all-around better striker than Austin Hubbard. Hubbard, the second run in the promotion, 1-2, he got submitted by Kurt Holloway in the Ultimate Fighter finale, beats Michael Figlak, and then gets a split decision loss to Alexander Hernandez. He was originally supposed to fight Daniel Zellhuber on this fight card. You know what that would have been, though? It just would have been the UFC trying to get Hubbard out of here and pushing Zellhuber. I honestly feel like this is the same thing. It's like Mederos is taking this fight on short notice. He was really supposed to fight 2 weeks ago against Evan Elder. Now he's got booked on this card instead. I think Mederos should win. I think he should be able to outstrike Hubbard. And also, Hubbard has a glaring weakness in terms of his grappling. He's not a good wrestler at all. I wouldn't say he's not a good wrestler, but he's even worse with jiu-jitsu. I don't know if Mederos is going to be able to sub him. I doubt it. But I think Mederos, if he does find himself in any trouble on the feet, he should be able to mix it up on, through the wrestling and through those clinch exchanges with Austin Hubbard. And I think Mederos should have this one sorted wherever this fight goes. So I'm going to take the favorite here, fighting out of Denver, Colorado. They're both fighting out of Denver? No. Oh, Markel Mederos, I believe. I don't know where in Colorado he trains at. Hubbard's an elevation fight team guy, but give me Markel Mederos. They're both training out of Colorado. Markel Mederos wins this fight by unanimous decision. We move on now to the featherweight division as we've got a matchup here between Jamal Emmers and Gabriel Miranda. Both these guys are 35 years of age. Jamal Emmers oddly wins a lot of fights that you don't think he's going to. I don't know, he's 3-4 in the promotion. I feel like Jamal Emmers has had more fights in the UFC, but you look at his entire resume of work. His last fight was a loss to Nate Landwehr. He got knocked out in the first round in Atlantic City, New Jersey. Prior to that, he beat Dennis Bazookia and knocks him out in the first round, but then had a split decision loss to Jack Jenkins before that. Beats Hussein Ashkabov before that by decision, a guy who was completely fraudulent, had a horrible padded record prior to the UFC. He got heel hooked by Pat Sabatini. It was the weird fight where Emmers had the toe hold and Sabatini had the heel hook, but obviously the heel hook's going to prevail, so Sabatini subbed him. And then Emmers had a decision victory over Vince Cachero before that, but then also prior to that, he lost to Giga Chikadze in his first UFC fight. So, I mean, if Jamal Emmers' past has anything to suggest for this fight, is that he's due to win one. He has lost one, won one, back and forth throughout his entire run in the promotion. And I think it's an extremely winnable fight here with Gabriel Miranda. As long as Emmers doesn't get taken down, he will win the fight. There's no other way to put it. Jamal Emmers also a pretty good defensive wrestler. Emmers in the UFC, I mean, sure, he's been knocked out a couple times. Well, just once. Well, you got TKO'd by Julian Erosa on the Contender. But, you know, he's usually able to get the fight where he wants it. Gabriel Miranda is, I don't want to call him a typical Brazilian fighter, but really good jiu-jitsu, his wrestling lacks. Just be honest. You know, if he could wrestle at the ability of a, you know, Division I college wrestler, he'd be really good, obviously. But he struggled to take down Morgan Chartier, who obviously just lost to Nathaniel Wood last week. We thankfully hit on that one. But Miranda, once he wasn't able to take Chartier down, he got TKO'd in the second, right? The win over Shane Young, sure, he got Shane Young down and submitted him, but where are we really rating a Shane Young victory in 2023? Not that highly. His first fight in the promotion, he fought Benoit Saint-Denis, and Benoit knocked him down 3 times in 5 minutes. So if Miranda's not able to get that takedown, he is screwed striking-wise. And that's why I think this is an easy victory here for Redlands, California's own in Jamal Emmers. This should be a first-round knockout. Again, Jamal Emmers does not have bad defensive wrestling. He's actually got really good defensive wrestling. I think he's only been taken down once in the UFC, and that was against Jack Jenkins, and Jenkins held him down for 10 seconds before Emmers popped back up to his feet. So unless Emmers slips, unless by some crazy, you know, result Miranda knocks him down, Emmers will be completely fine in this fight. And no, again, Miranda does not possess the striking prowess of a guy like Nate Landwehr, who just finished Jamal Emmers a year ago. Emmers should be fine. Now, I do worry about Emmers because he's 35 years old in terms of, you know, obviously fighting younger guys, but at the same time, he's actually fighting a fighter who is older than him in this one at the featherweight division. Miranda is 35, but he's 8 months older than Emmers. So again, loser of this fight, I'm not going to say he's going to get cut. Oh, Miranda might get cut. I don't know. If anything, this just feels like a fight that you're trying to get Emmers a victory with. It just does, let's be honest. Miranda got knocked out and his 2 losses in the UFC got knocked out. He beat a 13-7 Shane Young, who has not fought since, and that was the last fight of a 4-fight losing streak for him. So, yeah, I think Jamal Emmers is completely fine. I don't even know how Gabriel Miranda got in the UFC. His best win prior to getting into the promotion was over a 5-5 Diego Siqueira. Who the hell is that? Like, it just, I don't understand how he got in the UFC. I really don't. Yeah, Jamal Emmers will knock him out in the first. Yes, it took both Chartier and Benoit till the second. I think Emmers puts him away fairly early. Once Miranda's not able to get that takedown, he is a sitting duck on the feet. He just is. He won't be able to use his jiu-jitsu when he's going to be knocked out. So Jamal Emmers will win the fight by first round knockout. Moving on to our next one as we go to a matchup here between Rafa Garcia and Vince from Hell, Pichel. Vince Pichel's still in the UFC? He's 42, guys. We're talking about Emmers and Miranda. Oh, they're 35. Here's a guy 7 years older than them in Vince Pichel. This is a way to get the Mexican crowd going because Rafa Garcia is not losing to Vince Pichel. Like, I know what this, you know, where this is at in the order of the card, right? You get 2 fights prior to this. You get, you know, a Brazilian versus an American, 2 Americans starting the card. And now you get Garcia and Pichel. All right, Garcia is going to beat Vince Pichel. Vince Pichel, 42 years of age, has not won a fight since early Biden administration, August of 2021. Why is he in the UFC still? I don't know. Back-to-back losses to Mark Madsen and Ismael Bonfim. I mean, the Ismael Bonfim matchup just seemed like, you know, it just seems sad, honestly. Like, why are you giving, you know, I know Bonfim hasn't been, you know, elite in the UFC. He really hasn't, and they're trying to get him a victory, but it's just like, all right, dude, really? You're giving a young fighter Vince Pichel in Brazil. I mean, I know what they were doing then. They wanted to get Brazil a victory, so that's how Bonfim won, obviously, by decision. Well, now they're just trying to give Mexico a win. And it's not like, I mean, Vince Pichel hasn't fought in a year. The fight prior to that was in Jacksonville, UFC 273, somehow on the main card, and he lost to Mark Madsen by decision. It was not a good fight. It was one of the most unforgettable fights I remember watching on a pay-per-view card. No, there's a lot. Anthony Smith, Romando, let's say. Anyways, Pichel's last win became over Austin Hubbard, of all people, in August of 2021. And prior to that, in August of 2020, the guy fights once a year, he beat Jim Miller. Really good victory, but that's 5 years ago now. He was 37 then. He's 42 now. Rafa Garcia is an extremely durable guy. He's hard to put away. Yes, Grant Dawson did it, but that was because he got him down. Vince Pichel is not taking Rafa Garcia down, I don't think. Grant Dawson's just that talented. This will be like a Rafa Garcia-Clay Guida fight that happened in Kansas City in April of 2023. That's what this will be, I think. I think Pichel, he'll stay in the fight. He doesn't really get knocked out, if I'm being honest. But it's like, Pichel has nothing for Garcia in terms of finishing potential. Yeah, he's going to hit Rafa some, but Rafa's going to beat him to the punch. He's going to be the quicker guy, and he's just going to be first this entire fight. I don't think Pichel possesses much that's going to hurt Garcia, and obviously Garcia has a very good chin. Like most Mexicans, let's just be honest, they have really good chins, and that's a compliment, obviously. Hell, look at Brandon Moreno, right? Yeah, Garcia's tough to put away, man. And yes, Dawson did, but that was because of wrestling and ground and pound. You're not knocking out Garcia on the feet. I expect just a stand-up fight here. You could look at Garcia trying to take down Pichel, but I don't think... I mean, Gregor Gillespie dominated. Oh, God, that's 8 years ago now. Gregor Gillespie, that's when Gillespie still fought, really dominated Pichel grappling-wise, didn't let him do anything. Maybe Garcia shoots a takedown here. I doubt it. I think we're just going to see a striking fight. I legitimately think the best comp to this fight is Rafa Garcia-Clay Guida. Clay Guida was an older guy. Vince Pichel was even older than Clay Guida was then. And Garcia will just beat him to the punch all the time. I just think it'll be a 2-1 striking advantage for Rafa Garcia. He will double up on strikes compared to Vince Pichel, and Vince Pichel should retire. He's 42 years old. There's nothing else for you anymore. Let's just be honest. Hey, the GFL is probably going to be hiring, but I'm going to take Rafa Garcia to win this fight by unanimous decision, getting Mexico to a 1-0 start tonight. He's from Baja California, Mexico. Give me Rafa Garcia by unanimous decision. Next up, we've got another Mexican here in our next fight in the strawweight division. Lupi Godinez looking for a victory, taking on Julia Polastri. I think Lupi Godinez wins. It's not a hot take. I don't think Polastri's on her level. I think Godinez got absolutely robbed when she fought Mackenzie Dern. I think it was ridiculous. She lost that fight. I don't care what anybody says. That fight pissed me off so much. Godinez wins the fight, guys. Godinez won the last 2 rounds. I don't understand. The first round, I'll give it to Mackenzie Dern. Second round, Godinez outstrikes Dern and she gets a takedown. Third round, Godinez straight up just outstrikes Mackenzie Dern. And they gave Mackenzie Dern the third round because she outstriked Godinez. It just doesn't make sense to me. I think Mackenzie Dern's so horrible. I hate that she's on a win streak now. God, man. I don't know. She's give her Tatiana Suarez. I'm serious. I know people are down Suarez because of her last fight. Let her fight Mackenzie Dern, all right? That jiu-jitsu nonsense is not... Okay, jiu-jitsu's not nonsense, but, you're not going to be able to pull guard against, Tatiana Suarez. She'll just beat your face in, okay? Anyways, it'd actually be kind of an interesting stylistic matchup, so I'm not going to lie. Godinez should be able to bounce back here. Yeah, back-to-back losses. The Vina Jandiroba loss. At the time, it wasn't great. I was like, she lost to Vina Jandiroba. But Vina Jandiroba is now a fight away from fighting for a world championship, which kind of just shows the state of strawweight right now, but is what it is. Vina took her down, and Vina was able to, manage the fight, and obviously Jandiroba won. Prior to that, though, Godinez was on a 4-fight winning streak, dating back to the Cynthia Calvillo victory. Then she beat Emily Ducote, beat Elise Reed after that and subbed her, and then beat Tabitha Ricci by split decision, which is a victory that's aging all right. Ricci's probably going to be a mainstay of the top 10/top 15 for a while, like Lupi Godinez. I don't think Polastri's on her level. Julia Polastri is 1-1 in the UFC. She loses her first fight to Josephine Knutson, who is Knutson in the GFL or not? Because they list her on their roster, but she's 2-1 in the promotion. They really cut her after losing to Piera Rodriguez. That's insane. But Polastri lost to Josephine Knutson. Polastri got outstruck in that fight. Yeah, she got takedowns, but Knutson was able to pop back up to her feet eventually. And then a win over Corey McKenna by split decision. I don't know how that was a split decision. I thought Polastri won it fairly easily. Damage wins fights. And, most of the time. and she won it by split decision in October of 2024. A forgettable fight, but Polastri won. Okay, how does she beat Godinez? I think Godinez is able to stuff a lot of takedowns in this fight. I don't mind Godinez's defensive wrestling. She's got an 81% takedown defense rate so far in the UFC. And striking-wise, Godinez is better than Julia Polastri. This is just a fight set up for Lupi Godinez to win. And I don't really understand why she's only a minus 180 favorite here. I don't mind a Markel Mederos and Lupi Godinez parlay. That actually doesn't look that bad right now. Not going to lie, because there's not much straight value here, obviously, because the underdogs aren't very good in this early slate. But yeah, I don't mind. I mean, I usually don't suggest betting on women's MMA. I really doubt that Lupi Godinez doesn't win this fight. What does Polastri have for her? Jiu-jitsu? I mean, Polastri's not outstriking Godinez. She's not. I don't believe so. I think Godinez is a much more physical fighter. She's stronger than Polastri, and Polastri won't be able to take her down. Polastri's had 2 fights in the UFC. Godinez has had, what, 13? Could be wrong. I know it's on the graphic. This is her 13th fight, yeah. Yeah, she's lost back-to-back fights, and I do crap on Mackenzie Dern a lot, and Vina Jandiroba is what it is. But those right now are top 5 fighters. Julia Polastri's not even in the rankings. Godinez is a top 15, if not top 10 fighter. I think that's pretty safe to say. And I think undoubtedly she does beat Julia Polastri. Polastri won't be able to take her down, and she won't have her way on the feet. So with all of that in mind, Lupi Godinez should be able to win this fight by unanimous decision. So give me the Mexican here, the Canadian/Mexican Lupi Godinez. She wins this fight and sends Mexico now to 2-0 on this card. As we go on to our next one in the featherweight division, are we counting Christian Rodriguez as Mexican? I'm serious. Like, are we counting Markel Mederos as Mexican? I don't know. Because the UFC, trust me, they love to get international. We won't count it. Melt Costa versus Christian Rodriguez. The prospect killer, Christian Rodriguez, is back. I feel like every time there's somewhat of a hyped up prospect, Christian Rodriguez comes in and straight up beats them. But Rodriguez, does he have a real future at the top of the division? Likely not. Rodriguez 5-2 now in the UFC. He beats every named prospect ever, but then loses to Julian Erosa in less than a round. Because he beat Austin Bashi in his last fight. He controlled it. Outstruck Bashi. He won the fight by decision. He got the decision over Isaac Dolgarian. I can go either way on that. You know, it is what it is. Beat Cameron Simon, another one-time hyped-up prospect. He beat Raul Rosas, who's on the main card of this fight night. Obviously, Rosas has bounced back. But yeah, C-Rod continues to beat these prospects. Now, he does miss weight a lot. Let's just be honest, he does. He missed weight a lot when he was down at 135 pounds, but now he's made the move up to 145, and he's been all right up there, right? 2-1 at 145 pounds, lost the fight to Juicy J, Julian Erosa, but came back and beat Austin Bashi, who was an undefeated guy from the regionals at the time, from the Contender Series. Bashi was a minus 250 favorite in that fight, and Rodriguez ended up winning it by decision. So now Rodriguez is back taking on Melk Costa. Costa coming off a victory pretty quickly, or he's turned this around pretty quickly, just like C-Rod. C-Rod's last fight was against Bashi in January. The Costa victory was in February over Andre Fili. He submitted Fili in the first round. Good win, right? Fili shoots in for a takedown. He just gets caught in a guillotine. You don't think Costa has it all the way, and all of a sudden, oh, Fili's tapping. All right. So Costa picks up the victory in Seattle, by far the best victory of his UFC run. He's now 3-2 in the promotion, came in on short notice to fight Thiago Moises in Brazil. He lost, got subbed, beats Austin Lingo after that, gets knocked out by Steve Garcia, but Steve Garcia's on a run right now, and then back-to-back victories for Melt Costa over Shai Nordembeka, and then obviously Andre Fili, both of which were by submission. The Nordembeka win was by rear naked choke, and obviously the Fili victory was via the guillotine. I've seen this story so many times, though. I mean, I don't think Melt Costa is the most hyped up prospect right now, but he does have, again, some intrigue around him. Well, okay, C-Rod's going to beat him, you know? Is Melt Costa going to take Christian Rodriguez down? No. I saw Christian Rodriguez out-control Raul Rosas on the ground. I did. You know, he was fine against Bashi. He beat Simon on the ground. I don't think Melt Costa's able to find that way to the takedown. And on the feet, that's maybe where Melt Costa honestly has his best potential to win this fight. But I just think the all-around better fighter is Christian Rodriguez. He's not going to do anything that's going to wow you, let's be honest. But he is just a very well-balanced fighter. He can win fights on the feet. He can win them on the ground. He is a favorite in this fight. Rodriguez minus 165, Costa plus 135. But how does Costa win? He outstrikes Rodriguez, potentially, yes. But I think the work that Rodriguez is able to do in the clinch, he's able to make this, you know, his style of fight. I think Rodriguez should ultimately win. And at the same time, again, it's a somewhat of a prospect. Rodriguez probably gets him. C-Rod's good. It's just, again, the Julian Erosa fight just is weird. It is. I don't know. I mean, Julian Rosa wins weird fights sometimes, though, man. I don't know. Christian Rodriguez should be able to get Costa here. I think he's right back on the right track with the Bashi victory. I expect him to get Costa. I don't think Costa's able to control him on the ground nor get him on the ground in general. I'm going to take C-Rod, Christian Rodriguez, to beat Costa by unanimous decision. We go on to our next one here, and we go to a matchup here between the UFC debuting fighter in Atiba Gautier taking on Jose Medina. The UFC only kept Jose Medina in the UFC for this card, let's just be honest, because, we're close to Central America, obviously. Medina from Bolivia, and obviously they're in Mexico on Saturday. It's the only reason he's still in the promotion. Guys, I don't even know how Jose Medina got signed. He loses on the Contender Series to Magomed Gaziasulov, and the fight's not even competitive. He doesn't win a round in the fight, all right? Medina can't get anything off in his striking, and Gaziasulov just out-wrestles him for 15 minutes. For the most part, and does outstrike him at the same time. So Medina gets dominated on the Contender. They bring him in to fight Zachary Reese in the UFC last August. He's a plus 550 dog, and he gets controlled on the ground. He doesn't really stand a chance in that fight. So now he's back for another fight, and he gets Atiba Gautier. Now, it's a much more manageable fight for Medina because I don't think Gautier is going to wrestle him. This is a pure striker coming out of Cameroon, and the UFC is going to try to tell you he's the second ever Cameroonian fighter because let's forget about Francis Ngannou. They're going to say one was Stefan Chukwi and two is Atiba Gautier. Gautier is pretty huge for the weight class, though. I don't know how this guy makes 185 pounds. Maybe they're just lying about his height, but this guy's 6'4", and he fights at 185. And I just don't know how he makes this weight. The dude's huge for 185 pounds. He's a really good striker. We just haven't seen his grappling all that tested. I guess we have. Yeah, I just don't know how good Yura Naito is, the guy he beat in the Contender Series. What I meant to say, we haven't seen him against a really good grappler, right? Because Yura Naito, Japanese guy he fought in the Contender Series, Gautier knocks him out in the second round. Naito goes 1 for 11 on takedowns in that fight. So again, yeah, Gautier does have good defensive wrestling in that fight. And so far, we haven't really seen him challenged on the feet. Now, I don't really know how to, judge his regional fights. His last regional fight prior to fighting on the Contender Series was a co-main event spot against Carlos de Souza on Progress Czech Fighting Championship from Turton High School in Manchester, England. And Tapology on the top of the screen has it flagged saying they have, bout rigging at this fight promotion. That's nothing against Gautier, but it's just okay, this is the level of fights that he's been having. Looked really good in the Contender Series. There's a no-brainer signing. But if anything, right, this is the style of fight Medina wants. There's no grappling involved here. Okay, we're just going to find out who the better striker is. Expect the under to hit. I think someone's getting knocked out, and I think it's going to be Jose Medina. Now, sure, Medina's chin has been tested a little bit, and he's been fine, but, Gautier has power. When this guy hits you, you go down, and that was pretty obvious in the Yura Naito fight. He's only 22 years old as well. He turns 23 next month. He's fighting a guy who is 11 years older than him in Jose Medina. But I think ultimately Gautier does win the fight. I think he finds a way to the knockout. There should be no wrestling involved, which again does benefit both guys. But Gautier, I do just think, is the better striker. He has an 8-inch reach advantage in this fight. And the dude is just huge for 185 pounds. I think Gautier will be fighting at 205 by the time his career's over. He's only 22, right? He's going to, in the next 5 years, have to go up to 205 pounds. But I think as long as he doesn't get fraud checked in this fight, let's just hope he doesn't, oh, God, I'm blanking on his name. I'm blanking. Josias Musasa. Because, Musasa got fraud checked by, oh, my God, in the Apex. Carlos Vera beat Josias Musasa. Now, I think Gautier is better than Musasa, but I'm just comparing the guys because Musasa was kind of unproven going to the UFC. He was from the Congo, right? Gautier a little unproven coming out of Cameroon just because the regional fights aren't that well known. But Gautier, this dude looks like the complete package, and I think he should be able to beat Medina. I like the striking game. He's got power, and he should be able to just completely go through this guy. So I'm going to take Atiba Gautier to win his UFC debut, fighting out of Cameroon. He'll win the fight by first round knockout. We go to the flyweight division. We have our next Mexican fighter, as so far we have the Mexicans as 2-0 on this card, and I'm only counting the Mexicans who have Mexico in there. They're going to be carrying the Mexican flag tonight. I'm sure the UFC is going to stick everyone with the Mexican flag. Because doesn't Godinez usually have the Canadian flag, I think? No, she usually has the Mexican flag, I think. I don't know. Anyways, Edgar Chairez takes on CJ Vergara. I think this is a closer fight than the odds indicate. I did mention this very briefly when we started the video. I was saying, okay, I think a lot of these fights are, easy to predict. By the way, in our last fight, Gautier is a minus 550 favorite in his UFC debut, right? I mean, Musasa was like a minus 900 favorite the other week, right? Anyways, I do think this is one of the harder fights to pick, Edgar Chairez and CJ Vergara. Just because, yes, okay, Chairez is, coming off a very competitive fight against Josh Van, but yes, he does have one over Daniel Lacerda, and ultimately, should he have beat Lacerda twice? Probably. But ultimately, he's 1-2 in the UFC. No matter how you want to figure out the Lacerda victory, that's his only win in the UFC. You can say he's beat him twice, but the only win that he has is over Daniel Lacerda, who's a very fun fighter, but never won a fight in the UFC. You take on a guy now in CJ Vergara who's well experienced in the UFC. This is going to be his 8th walk into the octagon. Sure, he's coming off back-to-back losses to Asu Almabayev and Ramazan Terimov, but, this is a tough fight for Chairez. I really think it is. I think the odds for Vergara, I'm not saying I'm picking Vergara right now, but plus 210 for Vergara doesn't really feel all that bad. Just because stylistically, I mean, you're going to see a striking fight. Neither of these guys shoot takedowns. Neither of them have successfully landed a takedown in their UFC run. I think the reason why, though, Chairez probably wins this fight, and yes, I was talking about potentially picking Vergara and saying the value's not that bad for him. The reason why I am going to take Chairez ultimately, though, is Vergara looked so bad in his last fight. He just kept getting caught, man. The fight against Ramazan Terimov drops him three times in 3 minutes. And yeah, it was the work to the body, but I mean, still, he got blitzed in that fight and really had no answers. And that's what Vergara does. He's not going to take you down. He wants to strike. And Edgar Chairez, pure boxer. That's what he is, Look at the Josh Van fight. Very fun fight, but Van won that fight with the takedowns and, with some, opportune striking in the second and the third round. Chairez won the first, but Van just very quickly took over the fight in the second and the third. The Chairez victories over Lacerda are great. I'm just not going to put much into those because ultimately Daniel Lacerda was just a losing fighter in the UFC. He was a very fun fighter, but he was a losing fighter in the promotion. You're going to get a kickboxing battle in this one between Chairez and Vergara. I believe so. I know Chairez does have, submission, a lot of submissions in the past. He still has not landed a takedown in the UFC. I don't think tonight's going to be the first. I think he's going to come in here. It is home country. He's from Mexicali, Baja California as well. But I do think you're going to see Chairez more than willing to engage in a striking fight. And I do think he beats CJ Vergara in the striking fight, right? I think it's ultimately up to Chairez determining whether or not what he wants to do in this fight, because I think ultimately it is up to him. I don't think Vergara is shooting takedowns. He doesn't do that, Even when Terimov was dominating him, Vergara doesn't think, I'm going to go start shooting just so I can extend this fight. No, he took his beating. I don't know. Has Vergara ever shot a takedown in the UFC? I'm looking through all of his fights. I don't think he has. Unless he shot one in the Ode Osborne fight. Yeah, Vergara has never shot a takedown in the UFC. So tonight's not going to be the first. I think if anybody's going to shoot, it will be Chairez, but Chairez is more than comfortable boxing, I think, and I do think he's a better boxer than Vergara as well. I like the jab at Chairez. He has somewhat of a reach advantage in this fight, and I think Chairez is just the better boxer. Vergara, I think, is a little bit slow on the feet. He is 34 years old now at 125 pounds, which sure is not the end-all be-all, but if Vergara doesn't win this fight, he's likely getting cut. Same can be said about Chairez, probably. It's a winner-go-home fight. Loser goes, either to the regionals or to the GFL. The GFL wouldn't sign these guys. They're not big names. Actually, no, they probably sign some of these guys. Give me Edgar Chairez, though. Maybe Vergara gets another fight because he's been in the promotion for so long. But I think Chairez is a better striker, and I think if Chairez does want to mix it up, I think he can win down there too. So give me Edgar Chairez to beat CJ Vergara. He will get it done by unanimous decision. We keep it at the flyweight division. We've got our main card opener of Ronaldo Rodriguez taking on Kevin Borjas. Borjas still looking for his first victory in the UFC as he is 0-2 in the promotion, taking on Ronaldo Rodriguez, who goes from opening the main card to the Sphere to now opening this UFC Mexico main card up. Interesting odds, honestly. I think I was kind of surprised that the odds are this close. I kind of thought Rodriguez would be a bigger favorite, but I am surprised. Okay, and honestly, no, I'm not mad the odds are like this because I don't think Ronaldo Rodriguez was all that impressive in his second UFC fight. I don't even think he was impressive in the Denis Bondar fight, right? I mean, yes, he gets a submission in that one. He didn't look all that great prior to that submission, though. He beats Ode Osborne. Guys, he did. I don't think he beat Ode, right? I mean, control time is great, but when O'Day is out damaging you, I don't know how Osborne doesn't win. Now, I know why Osborne didn't win, because it was in the Sphere as a main card fight, and obviously they wanted their guy to win, but I don't know how O'Day didn't win the first and the third rounds. I mean, I know O'Day got control of the entire first round, but Rodriguez just got a takedown in that round. So, sorry, no. Osborne gets a knockdown. Rodriguez then just, holds on to him and does have control the entire round. But Rodriguez does no damage in that first. So I thought O'Day got the first. Second round, I have no problems giving it to Rodriguez. Obviously, it's a Ronaldo Rodriguez round. Third round, I thought O'Day got it. It's a striking round. O'Day lands a takedown in that round. O'Day outstrikes him too. So I don't know how Osborne didn't win. The UFC then gave Osborne, they're going to give him Luis Gruel coming up in a couple weeks to start off April, and that's probably going to be the fight that the Picasso of MMA gets cut on, unfortunately. It'll be a fourth straight loss for O'Day, but I thought he beat Ronaldo Rodriguez. It really sucks. I'm a big Picasso guy. Anyways, Ronaldo Rodriguez, now 2-0 in the UFC, does get to fight Kevin Borjas, who's 0-2 in the UFC with losses to Josh Van and Alejandro Costa. So yeah, I mean, those are tough fights, right? The Josh Van fight, back and forth war, but Josh Van ultimately gets the better of that fight. And the Alejandro Costa fight, Costa knocks out Borjas in the second round. Yeah, Ronaldo Rodriguez is not that impressive. He's not. I just think he's slightly better than Kevin Borjas, though, right? I think neither of these guys are going to be top guys. Obviously, Borjas loses. He's likely cut from the UFC. But I do think Rodriguez ultimately wins it. I think he wins it with his wrestling. Borjas hasn't really shown me anything so far in the UFC of note. I mean, he looked decent on the Contender. He got taken down a lot in the Contender series, but where Borjas won the fight and ultimately got his contract was with his striking. But in his 2 UFC bouts so far, the striking has gotten him nowhere, because at the UFC level, let's just be honest, he's nothing special striking-wise. He's just not, right? The Van fight and the Costa fight, hell, he got chinned in the Costa fight, and Josh Van outstruck him for 15 minutes. So again, I don't think Borjas is anything special at the UFC level. And not to say Ronaldo Rodriguez isn't, is some, uber talent or whatnot. But I think Rodriguez will have his way on the ground. I think he will, right? I mean, we saw Victor Diaz and Kevin Borjas' Contender Series fight. The fight was won 2-1 by Borjas, but we saw Victor Diaz have a lot of success wrestling early in that fight. Hell, he got some takedowns in the third. Borjas eventually and ultimately wins the fight just because of the damage he's able to do. However, again, that's how Ronaldo Rodriguez is going to fight, though. He's a durable guy. He's going to stay in your face. He will swing back at you, but he will take you down at the same time as well. I think this is kind of, I think Ronaldo Rodriguez is kind of just a better version of Victor Diaz. Kind of is, let's be honest. He's more durable, he's got better striking, and he's a better wrestler. If Borjas, barely got by Diaz on the Contender in 2023, why wouldn't Ronaldo Rodriguez win this fight at the same time? I think Rodriguez, don't get me wrong, leaves a lot to be desired. I think if he wins this fight, they might give him a top 15 opponent, because he would be 3-0. He's been on big cards before, Sphere, UFC Mexico main card. So they say, you know what? Let's go to the top 15 with him. Let's give him a Tim Elliott. I don't know, right? And he'll probably get fraud checked. Let's be honest. But in the fights that they're giving him right now, yeah, Rodriguez will continue to win. This is a very winnable fight for him. You can tell the UFC is trying to ease him into things. They're trying to build up his resume/record, because Kevin Borjas is 0-2 in the UFC, right? I mean, Ronaldo Rodriguez is 2-0. Given, yes, Rodriguez is kind of a 2-0, but he is at the same time. So I think Rodriguez wins this fight. I think he'll do it via the wrestling. And I think, again, it's not like Borjas is a crazy great striker. We've seen him lose on the feet already twice in the UFC. So I'm going to take Lazy Boy, Ronaldo Rodriguez, to win the main card opener, winning another one here from Mexico, sending the Mexican fighters to 4-0 on this card. See, Mexican MMA, they've been losing some a little bit. Alexa Grasso just lost her belt. It's time for them to get their get back, and it starts with, Ronaldo Rodriguez in the main card winning. The Mexicans are now 4-0 here at UFC Mexico. Can they go 5-0? Well, I think so. David Martinez makes his UFC debut in the bantamweight division against Simon Oliveira. I remember Simon Oliveira's UFC debut. I was actually kind of hyped up for Simon Oliveira. He didn't look horrible in the Contender Series. Barely won the fight by split decision, but fought a really tough guy. And I was like, all right, this guy's got really good grappling. Let's see if he's able to just smoke guys on the ground like he was able to do on the regional scene. The answer to that question was no, not at all. Oliveira's just been really disappointing in the UFC. And we saw his jiu-jitsu/grappling/wrestling tested right away. His first fight in the UFC, Anaheim, California, UFC 270, he fights Tony Gravely. Tony Gravely says, all right, you got jiu-jitsu, I'm just going to wrestle you the entire fight. And Oliveira had nothing for Tony Gravely in that fight. Literally nothing. Gravely shot 15 takedowns, but 11 for 15 on those takedown attempts. Simon Oliveira threw up 4 submissions. Nothing happened. Tony Gravely dominated the fight on the ground. So immediately I was like, all right, well, great. Oliveira's got jiu-jitsu, but he's, when you get a decent wrestler like Tony Gravely, and again, Tony Gravely's not even fighting anymore, I don't think. When's the last time Gravely fought? Was the Victor Henry fight? Yeah, I don't think Gravely's still fighting. Maybe he is, I don't know. Anyways, it's not like Tony Gravely's some elite level wrestler. He just dominated Oliveira on the ground. Then he fights Daniel Marcos. It's like, all right, second shot in the UFC. You're now fighting in Brazil. What happens? Oh, well, Daniel Marcos knocks him out in the first round or second round. And Simon Oliveira can't get the fight down to the ground, has really nothing for him striking-wise. And I get it, Daniel Marcos, undefeated guy, coming off an Adrian Yanez victory. He probably loses to Montel Jackson in a couple months, I'm just saying. But anyways, right, tough fight, sure. But now you're getting a guy in David Martinez who's coming off the Contender Series, but a guy who is 11-1, has not lost a fight since 2021, and looked damn good in the Contender Series, right? I mean, just went out there and outstruck Xavier Franklin. Nothing of note happened on the ground, obviously, just a straight stand and bang fight, and David Martinez ultimately won every single round. I don't think Oliveira has anything for him. I'm just going to be honest. I don't think he does. Oliveira is going to need a takedown in this fight. Again, I don't want to, throw all of these Brazilian fighters in the same basket here, but let's just be honest, guys. Like, some of these Brazilians, they just don't have good wrestling. Gabriel Miranda is one of them. Simon Oliveira is another. They've worked BJJ their entire life. They don't wrestle all that much. Because in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, you want to be on your back. So obviously in Jiu-Jitsu competitions, you can pull guard. Well, obviously, this is a fight. You throw punches. It's very different. I mean, you know that if you're watching this video, obviously. But I just don't think Oliveira is going to be able to get the fight down. He's looked so unimpressive in the UFC. He's 0-2, and it's kind of like, it's just, I don't want to completely compare it to Borjas in our last one, but like, all right, Oliveira, we've already seen you knocked out. We've already seen you dominated on the ground. What do you offer David Martinez now? I don't know. I can't tell you. I think if this is ultimately just a fight to get David Martinez in front of the national eye, or the mainstream audience, this fight's on ESPN, get him in front of the Mexican crowd, and get Mexico another victory. Simon Oliveira, very small for 135 pounds too. He's 5'4". Now, Martinez is 5'5". He's relatively small for the weight class too, so it really won't make a difference in this fight. But again, Oliveira is just, I don't know. He's not good, man. He's just not good. I don't know what to say. He hasn't fought since 2023. He's been out for 2 years. This is his last shot. Martinez will knock him out. Martinez has power, didn't get the knockout in the Contender Series, but was the Combate champion, won his last fight prior to the UFC over Jose Zarurs by 4th round TKO. He's got power, he can put you away, and I would be very surprised if he doesn't put away Simon Oliveira early in this fight. Daniel Marcos took him to the second round. I think David Martinez wins this fight in the first. I think he blitzes him early, gets the big finish in front of the Mexican crowd, and sends the Mexican fighters to 5-0 on this card. I'm taking David Martinez, the -400 favorite, to knock out the +13, +310 dog, Simon Oliveira. Martinez wins the fight by first round knockout. We go on now to our next bout. Raul Rosas Jr. will try to send the Mexican fighters to 6-0. I know he's from Santa Rosa, California. They are going to give him the Mexican flag, so I'm counting him as a Mexican tonight. And no, we're not counting Kelvin Gastelum, okay? We're just not. Because Gastelum probably loses. But anyways, we'll talk about that. I think Gastelum has a pathway to victory. But anyways, we'll get to that in a second. Raul Rosas Jr. tries to send the Mexicans to 6-0 against Vince Morales. Again, this is why I made the point earlier in the video, guys. I feel like a lot of these fights are just really set up for certain guys to win. And this is one of the most PFL match-baked cards I've seen in a while from the UFC. It's like, does anyone expect Raul Rosas to lose to Vince Morales? Honestly, because if you genuinely think Morales is going to win, I actually want to hear why. Legitimately. The only thing I can think of is if he out-conditions Raul Rosas and he out-cardios him. That's like the only reasonable thought I have to, maybe that's how, legitimately, if you're in the Vince Morales camp, how do you think you're winning this fight? You just lost to Elijah Smith, who I think is going to be really good. Don't get me wrong. I think Elijah Smith is still very green. He's 22 years old. I think Elijah Smith is going to someday, in 5 years, be in the top 10. I really think that guy's good. I just think he really needs to, hone in on some of his skills. Fought a kind of competitive fight against Vince Morales. Morales came on came on late in that fight. But I think Elijah Smith's going to be really solid. I think he looked really good early in fights. He just got again, and he won the 3rd round against Morales. But anyways, we'll talk about Elijah Smith when he gets his next booking. Get that guy in front of crowds. He's fun. But anyways, that fight was just a month ago. That was February 15th when Morales lost in the Apex to Elijah Smith, and you go from taking on a guy making his UFC debut who's 22 years old and very green to Raul Rosas Jr., who's actually younger than Elijah Smith. He's 20, but who's had way more fights in the UFC than Elijah Smith. This is Raul Rosas' 6th fight in the promotion. It's a step up, it is. Yeah, you're taking on a younger guy now, but it is a step up in competition. So how does Morales ultimately win this fight? It's got to be through striking. I mean, he's not going to out-grapple Raul Rosas, you know, but I saw Elijah Smith outstrike him. We saw Taylor Lapaloose outstrike him. By the way, how did Taylor Lapaloose get cut? We saw Miles Johns outstrike Vince Morales, and that was his first stint in the UFC. So Morales is 0-2 in the second run in the promotion. Legitimately, how does he beat Rosas? If he stuffs all the takedowns and he, again, out conditions and out cardios Rosas as the fight goes on. Again, if Rosas isn't able to get the fight down and Morales just keeps working the jab and keeps knocking, I mean, I don't see that happening. I don't think Morales can put that all together. Just fought a month ago too. Had to cut. Yeah, I don't know how much personally. I don't know how much weight Vince Morales cuts, but you just fought 135 pounds last month. You got to cut again to get down to 135 pounds. Ultimately, wherever he fights at. Again, I don't know how much Morales walks at, but you still got to make the weight again. It's just a month later. It's not like he's going up in weight this time. If this fight was 145 pounds, we really wouldn't be concerned, but you got to cut the weight again. Where does that leave the chin? And where does that really leave your gas tank too? Because yeah, that's how Morales has been competitive in some fights. He is able to pace himself really well, and he is able to stay in the fight. I don't really know how he's going to be just fighting a month later after cutting weight for a second time. I don't like it. I don't like it at all for Morales. And I do think Raul Rosas will be able to get takedowns. I mean, I saw Elijah Smith get takedowns on Morales, and that's not entirely what Smith does, but Elijah Smith got a takedown in every single round of that fight. He landed 3 in total, again, 1 in the first, 1 in the second, 1 in the third. And you know what Rosas is going to do. He's going to go in there, he's going to try to take you down. Now, his last fight against Oreki Long wasn't the greatest. It was the first fight in the Sphere, UFC 306, obviously, and it just, I don't know, it wasn't a good fight. It wasn't. Rosas wins, but I don't know. It was boring. Let's just be honest. It was a boring fight. He takes Oreki Long down. We were hoping he was going to get a finish to start off the card. He just out-grappled him the entire fight, kind of just laid on him. And then after the fight ended, he said chi wee wee, obviously, and he asked for a bonus, which I didn't know just out-wrestling guys for 15 minutes without a finish warranted a bonus, and obviously it doesn't. Right, but Rosas before that submitted Ricky Tercios in the second round in Louisville, Kentucky, beat Terrence Mitchell on the first Noche UFC card. He knocked him out in the first round, right? I mean, Rosas has been pretty solid since the Christian Rodriguez loss. He's 4-1 in the UFC. He's been pretty solid. I think he beats Vince Morales here. I think he takes down Vince Morales, and I just think he gives him a lot of trouble. I don't see how Morales wins. I just don't. I'm gonna take Raul Rosas first round submission. I think this is just another fight that's really set up for Rosas to win. It's not even like this is a replacement bout either. They just put this together. Yeah, it's weird. I don't know. We've been saying this a lot in this card, guys. I mean, David Martinez, that's a pretty easy fight for him. I think the Ronaldo Rodriguez fight's really set up for him to win. I think the Lupi Godinez fight, the Rafa Garcia fight, a lot of these fights are set up for the Mexican fighters to go out there and pick up a victory. And obviously, again, Rosas is the crowd favorite. Rosas is somewhat of a star. He's only 20 years old. Hell, he has his own Carl's Jr. meal, which, by the way, if you go to Carl's Jr. and actually ask for the Raul Rosas meal, they have no idea what you're talking about. It's crazy. Trust me, I've tried. First time I've been to Carl's Jr. in years. Didn't get anything. Anyways, Rosas will win the fight. He'll submit Vince Morales, and he'll do it pretty quickly, I think. So I'm going to go first round sub for Raul Rosas Jr. beating Vince Morales. We go to our featured bout now in the middleweight division. Here's the plus 410 underdog Kelvin Gastelum taking on the minus 550 favorite Joe Pyfer. We're not counting Gastelum as Mexican because it doesn't fit the Mexicans win the entire card agenda. Yeah, we'll get to our next fight. I don't know. We'll see about Manuel Torres. Anyways, Gastelum Pyfer. Guys, I'm sorry. Kelvin Gastelum looks so fat here. I'm gonna be honest. I don't know. It's because he missed weight in his last fight. I get it. But Gastelum's taking on Joe Pyfer. If you remember Kelvin Gastelum's last fight, yeah, because he weighed 15 pounds over. Fight was supposed to be at welterweight. They move it up to middleweight last second. He wins it by decision. So the welterweight days and the days of fit Kelvin Gastelum are over. He's going to go back to 185 pounds because he doesn't know how to diet. I don't know. I mean, again, I'm not going to harp on Kelvin Gastelum, but it's just like, all right, dude, like, you're undersized for 185. We've done this before. He's a much better fighter, 170 pounds. Guys, remember when he beat Chris Curtis and we're like, all right, Gastelum's back. That's a really good victory. He lost to Sean Brady, sure, but hell, guys, Sean Brady might fight for the belt in his next fight. I'm serious. They might give Sean Brady a title shot. Probably not. They're probably going to make him fight like Usman or something, if Usman's ever going to fight again, or Shavkat. I don't know. Ian Gary. But I think Sean Brady's going to fight for a belt within the next 365 days. That's not a bad loss for Gastelum that he got subbed in the third round by Sean Brady. Gastelum then beats Daniel Rodriguez at 185 pounds, but again, we've been here at 185 pounds with Gastelum. He is severely undersized, and the same thing happens here. He is severely undersized against Joe Pyfer. Gastelum's 5'9", Joe Pyfer's 6'2". Pyfer has a reach advantage. Pyfer is the more athletic guy, and the only way Gastelum wins, I think, is if he can take Pyfer down. I really think so. And Gastelum went to the Wrestling Summit in the Rodriguez fight, something that Gastelum wasn't really doing that much prior to the Daniel Rodriguez fight. Obviously, again, that wasn't the sole reason he beat D-Rod, but there was some wrestling involved. Gastelum actually went 4 for 4 on his takedowns in that fight. I don't think he's going to be able to take down Pyfer all that effectively. I don't think he's going to be able to go that well multiple times. I'll just be honest, guys. I think this is just kind of a beatdown by Joe Pyfer. I'm not going to lie. I don't think he finishes Kelvin Gastelum. I think when you look at Tapology, you have 87% of people picking this fight are picking Joe Pyfer. I'm not surprised at that. 60% are picking Pyfer by knockout. Guys, Kelvin Gastelum is one of these fighters, again, he is impossible to knock out. He just is. I saw Israel Adesanya go to war with this guy back when Izzy was really fun to watch. And, you know, this was during Izzy's rise, obviously. Adesanya threw everything at Kelvin Gastelum, and Gastelum kept standing. And obviously almost had him at the end of the 5th round. But that just shows you the durability and toughness of Kelvin Gastelum. I get it. Oh, Pyfer hits hard. He broke Ngannou's punch record on the punch machine. Whatever. He doesn't, you know... I'm seriously, a tank could hit Kelvin Gastelum and he'd still stay up. I'm serious. You know, you can drop him, but are you going to finish him? No. I don't think he's going to get finished in this fight. I think Pyfer wins a decision. I get it. He's got a lot of power. But Gastelum is a fighter, man. Like, I think we forget, like, Jack Hermanson beat Joe Pyfer. They main evented that fight last year, which was just an odd fight. Pyfer bounces back, obviously, and beats Marc-Andre Barriault on International Fight Week at UFC 303. But I don't think Gastelum's able to fraud check him. Like, I don't even say it's a fraud check, it's just a levels. It was a gatekeeper fight for... Has Hermanson shown up since the Pyfer fight? I don't think he has. I don't remember. He hasn't fought. What is Hermanson doing? He's 36. And he won the main event. I don't understand. He showed up to just, you know, kill a prospect and left. Anyways, I don't think Gastelum's able to do what Hermanson was able to do. Hermanson was able to really mix it up striking-wise, and he's able to get Pyfer deep in the fight. Because Pyfer won the first 2 rounds in that one. And I think Pyfer, if he does fight a 5-round fight, which ultimately I think he's going to at some point. Again, I think, Pyfer is going to be a guy in the top 10 for a very long time. He's going to get, like, Apex main events. He's going to have to go 5 rounds. And sure, we'll see that adjustment if Pyfer is able to make that adjustment going the full 5. But this is a 3-round environment. Yes, Kelvin Gastelum could win the 3rd, but Pyfer is a really quick starter, and he's good early in the fight. He beat Hermanson in the first 2 rounds. Hermanson won 3 through 5 to ultimately win the decision. Gastelum can't do that here. It's a 3 5-minute round fight. 3 5-minute round fight. That's an odd way of putting it. And Pyfer should easily be able to take this one. I'm taking Pyfer by decision. He's a better striker than Gastelum. He's got the reach on him, and he does hit harder than Kelvin too. I don't think Kelvin's able to get to the legs. I think Pyfer's going to be piecing him up from range. And I don't think Gastelum's going to be able to crash in and find that, you know, he's going to be able to deal with the distance that he's, you know, has to cover in this fight. I think Pyfer is going to touch him up the entire fight. I think Gastelum's going to really struggle finding his, you know, getting going in terms of striking. And I just think Gastelum loses by decision. He's just a small guy for 185 pounds. And it's not like he hits that hard to the point where, okay, he can make up for that lack of size with his power. No, he can't go shot for shot with Pyfer. Yeah, okay, he can. He'll stay standing, but he's not going to win shot for shot with Pyfer. I don't believe so. I don't think he's a better striker than Pyfer. I don't think he is. At 185 pounds, I don't think he is. Yeah, I'm taking Pyfer. It's a changing of the guard. I mean, I don't think Pyfer should be nowhere near a minus 550 favorite. I don't know what the odds are on Pyfer by decision, but if everyone's biting on Gastelum getting knocked out, I don't see it. Just Kelvin does... Guys, we saw Kelvin Gastelum fight prime Uriah Hall and didn't get knocked out. I get it. That was, you know, like, Uriah Hall was very, you know, gun shy in that fight. But I saw him fight Tyron Woodley in Woodley's prime, somewhat prime. You know, We saw him fight Chris Weidman. He did drop Weidman in that fight, but Weidman's chin was gone at that point. Again, we've seen Gastelum fight Adesanya, Whitaker, Cannonier. Nobody knocked him out. Like, Pyfer's not going to knock him out, trust me. I remember when Gastelum fought Jared Cannonier, a lot of people thought Cannonier was going to knock him out in those 5 rounds. I predicted Cannonier by decision. It's kind of the same thing here. Like, I think he'll get outstruck, Gastelum will, but he's not going to get finished. I'm taking Pyfer by unanimous decision. Next up, we go to our co-main event here. It is the closest odds on the entire fight card in the lightweight division. Manuel Torres takes on Drew Dober. Can Torres keep the Mexicans undefeated? They're 6-0 going into this fight. Can Torres make it 7-0? Ooh, we'll see. This is a tough fight. It's a really tough fight. Drew Dober has lost 3 of 4 now, which isn't really getting talked about much. The only victory was a gimme victory over Ricky Glenn. Now, ultimately, if Dober loses this fight, they will give him another fight like Ricky Glenn, so they can just get Dober back on the winning ways, because obviously, they don't want to get rid of Dober. He's a fun fighter who only has great fights, like this fight will likely be in the co-main event. But losses in 3 of his last 4. Frivola knockout loss, the Ricky Glenn win, the Nato Moicano decision loss, and the Gene Silva knockout loss, TKO loss, he had a cut. Anyways, Dober is back to take on Manuel Torres, who is 3-1 in the UFC, and coming off of that knockout loss to Ignacio Bahamondes at the Sphere. Wasn't great. Torres got chinned pretty early in that one. Now, we know how good Bahamondes is coming off the win over Jalen Turner. Bahamondes will get a top 10 fight next, but Torres did just get caught in that one. 2 prior fights for him in the UFC. The submission victory over Chris Duncan, which I guess is looking better now because Duncan just dominated Jordan Vucenic, which was very odd. And then a knockout second in his first fight against Nicolas Mata. Second fight. I thought Frank Camacho. I kind of forget Frank Camacho existed, to be honest. Frank Camacho went 2-6 in the UFC. How did he get 8 fights? Anyways, Manuel Torres 3-1 in the UFC. We'll see. Can he get Drew Dober here? I don't know. I kind of feel like this is, I don't want to say levels, but I think Dober might be able to fight him off here. I don't know. Dober's fun, obviously. I don't know if Torres is able to go shot for shot with Dober. Dober's chin is not, I don't know. I'm not going to say it's not holding up anymore, but we did see Frivola, chin him. The Gene Silva fight wasn't chinning at all, obviously, but actually, if anything, that just kind of shows that Dober's chin is still fine. Because, Gene Silva hit him with some big shots, and he kept walking forward. Yes, the fight got ended because of a cut, but that wasn't because Dober went down, obviously. So, no, I'm not going to say the Dober chin's bad at this point. I don't think Manuel Torres will be able to just chin him. And when I think about it, is Manuel Torres going to take Drew Dober down? Like Moicano did, but that's Renato Moicano. Other than that, who else has really taken Drew Dober down and had a lot of success taking Drew Dober down? Brad Riddell? I'm going to go Drew Dober. I'm going to go Drew Dober in this fight. I don't think Manuel Torres is able to hang on the feet. I'm going to take Dober by 2nd round TKO. I think it's going to be fun for as long as it lasts. But we did just see Manuel Torres chinned by Ignacio Bahamondes. Now I get it. Bahamondes is really good. But Bahamondes knocked him down twice in the span of 4 minutes. If you're eating all those shots, I'm not saying Dober's a better pure striker than Bahamondes. I'm not saying that. But if Bahamondes is catching you, Drew Dober's probably going to catch you too. That's just how Dober fights. Again, he closes distance really well. He can get in your face, and he did have that streak where, he knocked out Bobby Green, he knocked out Alves in a very fun fight. TKO'd Alves with a shot to the body. But, Dober has a lot of skills and a lot of weapons in his arsenal to try to get Manuel Torres. I think Manuel Torres is ultimately just a little unproven here. This is going to be Drew Dober's 25th UFC fight on Saturday. This is Torres' 5th. Dober's had 20 more fights than Torres has had in the UFC. And the wins, again, are all very quick. Camacho, Mata, Duncan, and even the Bahamondes fight didn't get out the first round. What happens to Manuel Torres once we get past that first? And even prior to all these UFC fights, Contender Series fight, first round knockout. Fight prior to the UFC, first round submission in the first. Repeated myself. After that, first round submission. After that, a loss in the first round by submission. Heel hook loss prior to that by submission in the first. Guillotine or rear naked choke victory in the first round. All of his fights are in the first. I don't think Manuel Torres is going to knock out Dober in the first round. I think once that happens, Dober is going to start to get to him. I know Dober's 36, but I think this fight does actually work pretty well for him here. Yeah, Torres doesn't get out the first round. What happens after that? And we know Dober is going to be there after the first 5 minutes, and I'll say he gets probably better after the first 5 minutes. Yeah, Drew Dober's winning this fight. I don't think Torres is going to take Dober down. Yeah, Dober's been subbed a couple times, but I don't think Torres has the jiu-jitsu prowess to do that. I'm taking Drew Dober by second round TKO. Yeah, I think eventually he's going to get to Torres. Torres has never seen the second round, and I think Dober is going to give him a world of hell. He's going to bring him to the 7th layer of hair. I'm joking. He's not going to wrestle him. I think Dober does find a way to finish him in the second round. Give me Drew Dober at 36 years of age to win the co-main event, ending the Mexicans' undefeated run. Dober makes him 6-1, but can Brandon Moreno make them 7-1 as he gets a main event spot here against Steve Erceg. Guys, I think this fight summarizes this entire card for the most part. Why the hell is Steve Erceg fighting Brandon Moreno? It's just a fight to get Moreno another victory. Now, Moreno's not going to get a title shot off this. You can't do it. With the influx of challengers at the top of the weight class. And by the way, the entire division is getting screwed right now because for some stupid reason, Kai Kara France is getting a title shot. It makes zero sense. It's the dumbest thing ever. But I know Moreno's next fight and how we went over this in length in our Kyoji Horiguchi video where we talked about the future of 125 pounds. But I don't understand why Erceg's in this fight. Guys, Steve Erceg, after his win over Matt Schnell, he called out Brandon Moreno. He did not call out a title fight. Now, they needed, obviously, someone to fight Pantoja, so he took it. But when he beat Matt Schnell, Steve Erceg was 3-0 in the UFC, and he called out Brandon Moreno for the Sphere. That's the fight he wanted. And at the time, we're thinking, oh, that's just kind of an odd step up. But sure, all right, whatever. He's sitting as Pantoja. He lost the fight to Pantoja, right, in Brazil. They then book him in a co-main event of a pay-per-view against Kai Kara France. Kai Kara France picks up his first win in 3 fights and knocks out Steve Erceg. What do they do to Erceg? They give him Asu Almabayev. In hindsight, he probably would have beat Almabayev. Anyways, that fight gets rebooked because Erceg goes to this fight and Almabayev got the Manel Kopp fight. And now Erceg gets Brandon Moreno. So since Steve Erceg called out Brandon Moreno to the Sphere, he has lost 2 fights, and Brandon Moreno since then has won a dominant fight over Amir Albazi. The reason why Erceg called Moreno out was because he was coming off the loss to Royval. Well, Moreno's won since, and he looked really good against Albazi. Now, I don't know if that was just, Albazi's never been that good in the first place, but Moreno dominated the fight from pillar to post, won the fight 50-45 on all 3 cards. I don't know if he's going to dominate Erceg like that, but I think he's ultimately, yes, he's going to beat Steve Erceg. He will. I think Moreno can wrestle Erceg. We saw Pantoja do that. I don't know if he's going to outstrike Erceg, which, again, Kai Kara France caught him twice. I don't think Erceg's striking is as good as we think it is. He was competitive with Pantoja. I thought Pantoja won a lot of those exchanges on the feet, though. And yeah, Pantoja ultimately won the fight with his grappling, but I still think Pantoja outstruck Erceg in that fight. And then we saw Kai Kara France knock out Erceg in 4 minutes and knocked him down twice in that span. I don't know. It's just, I think it's a bad fight for Erceg. It is. Sure, if you win, all right, you're back at the top of the weight class. The odds he beats Brandon Moreno are so slim, though. It just is. Because I get it. Brandon Royval outstruck Brandon Moreno in their main event this time last year in Mexico. I completely understand that. Royval's so much better than Erceg, guys. He is. Royval really gets overlooked in this entire equation. He should probably be fighting for a belt next. The only reason he's not is because he's already lost twice to Pantoja. But people forget, Royval, again, has beat Moreno now. He just beat a guy nobody wanted to fight in Tatsuro Taira. He took his O, right? I don't know who he's going to fight next. I will suggest who I think he's probably going to fight after I give you the prediction. Well, it's obviously Brandon Moreno, but he should fight Brandon Moreno again next. But we'll talk about that later. I don't think Erceg has it to outstrike Moreno for 25 minutes or, hell, win 3 rounds in this fight. He's not going to outstrike Moreno for 3 rounds. He won't. I don't think he's going to. I think Moreno will not be scared to go to the wrestling in this fight. I don't think Moreno is going to lose another fight in Mexico in back-to-back years. He's not going to allow himself to lose in this spot like he did last year to Royval. I don't believe so. Somehow it was a split decision last year against Royval. Royval easily won that fight, trust me. So I don't think Moreno's going to be afraid to grapple. I think he's going to do whatever it takes to win this fight because Moreno knows if he wins this fight, all right, regardless of the fact that he's already lost to Pantoja 3 times, he's probably still a fight away from the belt. And who knows with Kyoji Horiguchi coming in, Manel Kopp potentially getting a title shot, Kai Kara France has no chance, but still, right, Pantoja could lose, then Brandon Moreno could put himself immediately back for a championship opportunity. It's the same situation that happened when Volkanovski was the champion at 145, and Max Holloway had already lost 3 times, but Holloway was right there, right? And ultimately, right, Holloway eventually got his shot against Ilia Topuria, right? So that's kind of the situation Moreno's in, but the thing is, nobody ever beat Max Holloway at 145 pounds. Brandon Royval has beat Moreno. That's why Royval is the #1 contender. Moreno is, I believe, second, right? So We'll see. I don't think Erceg's got power. We know he does, but you're not knocking out Brandon Moreno. It's like this. It's the same thing I just talked about with Kelvin Gastelum. He just has a great chin. This guy fought Divas and Figueiredo for an hour? No, more than an hour. He fought Figueiredo for like an hour and a half, and Figueiredo never knocked him out. Yeah, Figueiredo dropped him 3 times in one fight, but he didn't knock out Moreno, and that was the type of effort that Figueiredo needed to beat him. So do you think Erceg's going to knock down Brandon Moreno 3 times? I don't think so. And Erceg is nowhere near the fighter prime Figueiredo was. And on top of that, I think Moreno's going to wrestle a lot here. I really think he's going to. Because Erceg has not been proven to be a great grappler yet. I'm not saying he's not, but Pantoja dominated on the ground, right? And that's really the only matchups he's had where he's had to fight off takedowns. Moreno, we know he's got that in his bag. He just doesn't always go to it. But hell, don't forget, when Moreno beat Figueiredo the first time, it was because of a submission. Sure, he knocked him down, but Moreno early in that fight was going to the wrestling. Or no, that's how he ended up winning the fight. You got the knockdown in the first. But anyways, right, Moreno, that's how he ultimately won the belt for the first time. He took Deuce to get down and he submitted him, right? So I don't think Moreno's going to be afraid to, grapple at all in this one. I think he can outstrike Erceg too. Guys, don't forget, Brandon Moreno TKO'd Kai Kara France back in Dallas in July of 2022. Caught him with a body kick, put him down, won the fight, right? I think Moreno wins this fight. I don't think it's all that close. I don't think it's the straight beatdown the Albazi fight was, because Moreno did beat Albazi down and just outstruck him for 25 minutes. The first round was probably the closest round, and then Moreno just kept, getting better as the fight went on. I don't think it's the beatdown that fight was, but I ultimately do think, yes, Moreno wins every single round tonight on Saturday, and I just think it's a mismatch. I think it's a dumb fight, too. It shouldn't happen. I don't know who they would have booked Moreno against. If you look at the weight class, all right, I mean, it should have been Kai Kara France. It should have been. It should have been Kai Kara France. Yeah, that's what the fight should have been. Or Manel Kopp. It should have been, why wasn't this Manel Kopp? They should have just done Almabayev Erceg and then Kopp Moreno. Anyways, we're taking Brandon Moreno to beat Steve Erceg. If you want to see how I booked the rest of the flyweight division, I went over that in full in the Kyoji Horiguchi video. But for Brandon Moreno, yes, I would do the trilogy fight against Royval. They're 1-1. Moreno beat Royval the first time around to get his title shot. The fight that ultimately ended up in a draw with Figueiredo, but that's how Moreno got the fight, by beating Royval. And then Royval won the second fight last year in Mexico. So let's do the fight again. Royval has won since, Moreno has won since, and you can say, all right, the winner of the trilogy bout will get their 4th opportunity. Well, no, Royval will be getting his 3rd and Moreno will be getting his 4th, but the winner, sure, you will get a shot at Alexandre Pantoja, because you can get rid of the loser in terms of title discussions for a while, and the winner, okay. The winner of that Royval Moreno trilogy had definitely, they've done enough to deserve another title shot. I personally think Royval would beat him again, but anyways, we'll see what happens. I'm taking Brandon Moreno in the main event, though, from UFC Mexico this Saturday night. And folks, thank y'all for watching our UFC Mexico predictions. Make sure to hit that subscribe button down below for more. Make sure to leave a like if you did enjoy the video. Make sure to comment if you do disagree with any of the picks. Folks, thank y'all for watching, and Mamba forever.